Hi everyone, I'm Tina Olivero from Guardians of Recovery. If you've lived through this chaos, you already know the pain of losing your child to the system, but you haven't, and if you're just now starting to ask what's going on with our youth, this conversation is going to be a huge eye-opener. This message is for you. Right now, across Newfoundland and Labrador, and indeed across Canada, our kids are being lured into false freedoms. And by the time we actually try to save them, it's too late. So let me explain, break it down. It usually starts, of course, in high school during adolescence, somewhere between 13 and 16 years old. Kids are starting to push back at home. Like every teenager, that's part and parcel of growing up. They argue with you more than they used to. They test your limits. That's exactly what they're designed to do at that age. That's normal. But when some organization comes into their schools and says, if you're having any problems at home, if you're arguing with your parents, if things aren't right there for you, that's no problem. We have a safe home for you. And this is a place where you can go, you can, be in your own house with no rules and live on your own in your own space. Now, to a teenager, that's like a light bulb. That sounds like independence. That sounds cool. That sounds I can smoke, dope, do whatever I want, freedom. And it's actually a low barrier harm reduction home or facility. And let me tell you what that actually means. It means no rules, no curfews, no sobriety required, no structure, no mandatory treatment, no kids going to school. Kids can be actively using fentanyl, meth, cocaine, weed, shatter, and they're welcomed with open arms under the banner of harm reduction, low barrier, everybody's welcome, no matter where you are. Meet people where they're at. Sounds good. On top of that, we're going to give you clean needles, safe use kits, and support without any requirements to stop using, and advice on how you can actually get high in a less risky way. Like, we're going to tell you to start small with your drugs. That's insane. They call that help, but what it really is government-funded drug houses for vulnerable kids that got lured into false freedoms. And once they're in, a parent has lost any rights to help their kid. That's what happened to me and Ben. Because here's the law in Newfoundland and Labrador. A child can legally leave home without parental consent at the age of 16. Think about that. They're required to attend school, but they don't. And child protection laws apply until they're 19, but they're not protected. Quite the opposite. But that's a crazy system because kids want to live independently in a system, but it actually has no structure or care. So even if they're using deadly drugs, even if you know that they're at risk, even if they need help, what happens next? The system enables them to continue to spiral downward. I've spent the last 2 years helping parents who have kids with addiction, and every single family that I've spoken to, every single one has a safe home, a loving home. They've tried everything to help their child, and they're shut out by the system. That is wrong, because once a child leaves, the parent has no power to help that child whatsoever because of the privacy laws. So even if you're a young adult addicted to weed, which is the case of Ben, you can't help them get treatment. And let's be real, a child who's high, confused, being enabled by the system is not going to say, oh gee, let's go to rehab, let's get better. No, they stay in a system and they circle until there's nothing left. They have a house for them, they give them safe drug supplies, they teach them to use safely, and they let them spiral down further and further, and kids don't get out. They drop out of school, they lose contact with their friends, they drop all of their things that they love to do. They burn all their bridges with their family. And by the time they're 18, they often end up in jail or in hospital or in the morgue, which is disgraceful. Let me ask you this. Does that sound like care to you? Is the government doing their job with our kids? because I buried my son in that system for 6 years nonstop. I fought to help him and could not. And I'm determined. He was lured by the same lies. He believed in the same false freedoms, and he died in a system that made it nearly impossible for me to protect him. That is wrong. And we're watching the next wave of kids come up and come through in that system, and your kid could be gone just like that in the exact same way. Could happen to you. Under the banner of harm reduction, low barrier homes, this system is not just broken, it's designed to keep parents powerless and normalize addiction under false promise. This is wrong. And the public has no idea that it's actually happening, which is why I'm making this video. It's got to stop. So you know now what's actually going on. Don't turn away. See it for what it is. If you're listening to this, please don't assume these are bad kids from bad homes. They're not. That is a lie. These are smart, independent kids who had the world in their hands, who were offered false freedoms before they were ready to take responsibility for them, with no structure, and ended up being groomed by a system that won't lift a finger to help them to stop them from dying. We need to give parents back their rights to help their kids. We need to shut down low barrier drug houses for minors when parents have safe homes. We need to stop enabling addiction and start funding recovery, real recovery with structure. And we got to stop handing out, drug paraphernalia so kids can continue to use. No kid should be taught how to die slowly while their parents are forced to watch them die in the system. That is wrong. That has got to stop. I'm Tina Olivero from Guardians of Recovery. That's my message for today. Over and out.